Welcome into a Friday edition of Snaps. And look, man, we're really fired up to be joined by another great football mind, our guy, Adam Breneman. He is, a former coach, a former player. He was recently the youngest assistant coach in all of Power 5 football, tight end coach at Arizona State. So you've seen it from every different angle. Now he hosts a podcast, Next Up with Adam. He's an ESPN college football analyst, three-time All-American over there at UMass, Penn State as well. Adam, what's going on, man? Thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate you guys having me. Excited to talk ball with you guys.
Hell yes. It's always great to welcome in another college football brethren. And let's start here. We'll start very big picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Aaron's obviously a little Georgia boy, and he's an adult that barks at other adults. It's all very odd and disconcerting. Yeah, exactly. I don't, it makes me uncomfortable, but
I love it though.
Unfortunately, it's hard not to have your dog right now, right? I mean, 2 natties in a row. What do you think, man? Give me some hope in terms of maybe who or what needs to happen for Georgia to be dethroned next year and for Aaron not to get to celebrate a third national title in a row.
Adam, don't give in to him here. Don't have to give in to T-Bob because he's, for the first question. He's trying to lead you down the path I'm smack about the dog. So
I think I can appease both of you. I can appease both of you with this answer. I think my first thought is that I don't think they're going to get dethroned. Okay, I think Georgia three-peats. If I had to put money on it right now, I'm betting on Georgia to three-peat, just like Vegas is. Now, if there was one team I had to pick to do it, to dethrone Georgia, it would be Michigan. I think that's kind of an easy answer. A lot of people would talk about Michigan and what they did last year, returning J.J. McCarthy. The sleeper team, and I'm not just saying this because of UT-Bone, is LSU returns one of the most talented rosters in the country. I mean, you talk about returning a quarterback that's a legitimate Heisman contender in Jaden Daniels and the development he had over the last year, what Mike Denbrock's done with him in that system. I mean, you saw they allowed Jaden to play the way he plays best, on the move, get him out of the pocket. When they did drop back, it was Max Pro. They let him use his arm, easy decision making, didn't have to read, didn't have to go left to right in progressions. And, they return a lot of talent on offense. Their defense lost a few more starters, but I think LSU's the one in the SEC. You can talk Alabama, talk all those schools. I think LSU's the one that, has a chance to be better than people expect.
I'm with you. I think LSU wins the West again next year, but loses to Georgia in blowout fashion in Atlanta. I want to go back to Michigan here. Yeah, blowout fashion. You bring up JJ, and I gave JJ a lot of crap throughout the year last year, but then he showed up in big time games down the stretch. How much more is there left in the tank? Like, are we going to get the guy that would play in the second half of the first round of the playoffs, the guy that played versus Ohio State? Or are we going to get the guy that was more dink and dunk, super conservative for probably 90% of the season?
I think similar to what I just said about Jaden, they did a really good job with JJ as well, of not asking him to do the things that he's not super comfortable doing. You didn't see him drop back, 5-step drops and reading progressions across the field. They were run the ball, take shots down the field and play action. They have those great tight ends. They got Colston Loveland, the young tight end who's a beast, had the touchdown in the playoff. I think JJ's game elevated throughout the season. I think he's going to elevate even more, but he's also shown the ability to elevate everyone around him. He's a leader. That offense was better when he was on the field. And then he's got those running backs around him. Blake Corum coming back, Donovan Edwards. JJ McCarthy's at his best when they're able to run the football really well. I think we've seen that. And is McCarthy ever going to be the quarterback that you want to throw 40 times a game with? I don't think so. But that's also not what Michigan wants to be on offense. They want to run the ball. And, they'll take 3 yards here, take 4 yards, play action, run the bootleg, get the tight ends in the flat. That's what they want to be. And JJ fits that perfectly. And then he can create with his legs when he has to.
I agree with the model of what Harbaugh wants to do. And that's part of the reason why they've had success against Ohio State. They've played big boy football. They want to be more physical at the line of scrimmage. But is that model good enough to beat Georgia, LSU? Because we've seen Georgia, the games that Georgia have struggled in are teams that are a little bit more finesse, the teams that want to throw the football. Alabama 2 years ago. If Alabama stays healthy, they probably win that national championship. We saw Ohio State this past year. If they're healthy, same thing.
Yeah.
The teams that have the quarterback that can take over the game one or two stud receivers. I just think if you want to play Georgia's game, you're in trouble because they're bigger, stronger, more physical than you. Can Harbaugh, with his style, and like you allude to what they do with JJ, protecting him a little bit, is that good enough to take them to a natty?
What you just said is the exact reason that when we started, I said, no, I don't think Michigan will beat Georgia. I think Georgia's going to three-peat. I don't think they don't have the offensive firepower to do it. Like you said, if you want to beat Georgia, you got to put up a ton of points. I don't think that offense and what they do with JJ and what they want to be with their run game can take off Georgia, dethrone Georgia. I think it's good enough to beat Ohio State, which they have. I think they're going to do it again. I don't think Ohio State's, especially with where they're at from a quarterback perspective right now. But is it good enough to beat Georgia and consistently compete for a national championship? I don't think it is. And until JJ takes that step where he's able to do it, or we don't even know if they'll allow him to take that step. Are they just going to keep that same system where they max pro it up, where they're running the ball a ton? I don't think they'll be able to win a national championship, dethrone Georgia, at least this coming season.
So you do think that Michigan's going to be better than Ohio State, though, because there's a weird amount of and I feel it, right? Like I just have some sort of weird internal bias that I can't even really fully put my thumb on why I feel this way, but it still feels like Ohio State just always gets the nod, right? Like even this last season going into the game, Ohio State was the favorite, and there were all the excuses made about, well, look, last year the setting was perfect for Michigan. Well, now Michigan did it again this year. So like when you go to Big Ten media days this season, it's kind of similar to what we're asking to SEC media days, LSU and Alabama. Like, is the brand of Ohio State enough to keep them on top in terms of who the media is going to expect to win? Or do you think after 2 years whooping that ass in a row, do you think Michigan will be chosen as the predicted winner?
I think Michigan will be chosen as the predicted winner preseason. And the main reason I believe that, number one, is what we just talked about, McCarthy's development and that style of play. You can win every game in the Big Ten. You can beat every team with the way Michigan plays football. I mean, I always, as an offensive guy, like I always go to the quarterback, right? It's an easy thing to say. Always look at the quarterback situation. At Ohio State, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. They're both, Kyle McCord, Devin Brown, they're both inexperienced. I think McCord will get the nod, but, we don't know what either of them are going to be, what they can do, how they're going to become. Now, if there's anyone that can figure it out, it's probably Ryan Day, but you look at what they have to replace: CJ Stroud, Paris Johnson, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
You return Marvin Harrison Jr., you return some of those guys, but that's a ton to replace on offense. And they've now been blown out by Michigan 2 years in a row. I think Michigan deserves the preseason nod there, and I think they'll handle it on the during the season. I think Michigan beats Ohio State again.
Now there's one Big Ten team that really deserves all the roses. Maybe not this year, but they're it's never going to stop. So Adam, I like to call myself, my name is T-Bob. I like to call myself T-Cobb. Okay. Because I am a Nebraska believer. Matt Rule is about to awaken the slumbering beast. Adam, how far away is Nebraska? I mean, it seems like the fans are loving him. The players are loving him. The program's got juice for the first time. Well, I guess since the hiring of Scott Frost, but still, yeah. Okay. It's going to be different this time around. Yeah. How are we feeling about my Cornhuskers too?
I'm excited about Nebraska, but I still think they're a couple years off. You look at what Matt Rule did at Temple. I mean, he won 2 games in year 1 at Temple. He won 1 game in year 1 at Baylor. Now, the thing is, Matt Rule is as good of a evaluator as anyone in the country. I mean, that is what he does. He finds the 3 stars, the 2 stars at Temple, turns them into NFL players. That's what he's great at. I don't think it happens in year 1. That roster has been pretty bad. I think a win for Nebraska in year 1 is just to turn around the mentality around that program. I mean, there's been question marks about the heart they have under Scott Frost. Do they want it? Do they want to show up on Saturdays? If he can turn that around, they start the season with, I think it's Colorado and Minnesota. I don't think they beat Colorado in week 1, but they got to win one of those 2 games, to kind of feel good about yourself in the Matt Rule era. But, I think a 5-7, 6-6, 7-5 season is a really good year for Matt Rule. And knowing the way he turns these programs around, it doesn't happen overnight. And you look at what he did before, it's not going to happen in year one. But, the quarterback situation too at Nebraska, Casey Thompson comes back. They brought in Jeff Sims, the transfer that's played a ton of football. How does that, can Casey Thompson stay healthy? How does that situation play out? I'm excited to see it. I do think Matt Rule, talk about a home run hire. That is a perfect hire for Nebraska, exactly what they need. They needed at the time with all the turmoil that program's had.
How much money did T-Bob pay you before the show? First, you talk good about LSU. Then you talk good about Nebraska. They're going to make a bowl game in their first year in that rule. I just can't wait till this rug gets pulled from under T-Bob come next season. I want to talk about a real good team, a team that is somewhat of a dark horse. Just taking the Big Ten here, T-Bob. I'm not going to go Georgia on. We've already talked about my dogs. Penn State, you know them well. Yeah. Obviously, they return a lot of talent. They got those freshman running backs. They got some receivers back. Sean Clifford's gone, which, obviously you either hate or love Sean Clifford. I like Sean. Hey, listen.
Is Sean Clifford as old as you? Sean Clifford's your age, isn't he?
Is Sean Clifford actually gone? I feel like he's just going to be wearing a different uniform and still be playing quarterback.
Depends if he gets drafted or not. He may try to find and sneak away in if he doesn't get picked in the top 7 rounds. But they do got a stud, Drew. Was it Aller coming in?
Allar, yep.
Allar, yeah. So they got talent, man, and especially those running backs. So is there a chance that we talk about Ohio State, we talk about Michigan? Penn State's like the redheaded stepchild. Can they make some moves this year?
I was hoping you were going to tee me up on a Penn State question. I love it. I love talking Penn State, but I if there's ever a year to do it, it should be this year. It should be 2023. You got your 5-star quarterback who, by the way, I think James Franklin played that situation perfectly. Being around the Penn State, fan base, they wanted to see Drew Allar very early last season. Franklin didn't budge. He played Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford goes out on a great note in the Rose Bowl, throws for 400 yards, gets a win against Utah. And now the freshman's got a year to develop and is able to step in, without having to play too early. So I give James Franklin credit for how he played that situation. A few things with Penn State. Number one, the running back room. You got Nick Singleton, as you mentioned, Aaron. You got Katron Allen, maybe one of the best running back rooms in the country. Penn State's got a great tight end room. They lost Brenton Strange to the NFL, but you got Tyler Warren, you got Theo Johnson, both guys that'll play in the NFL, and another one of the top rooms in the country, probably other than Georgia, from a tight end perspective. The biggest offseason win for Penn State was keeping Manny Diaz as their defensive coordinator for year 2. That's something that wasn't talked about a ton. He had head coaching opportunities. Yeah. Anytime you have a former head coach, Power 5, that does a great job as a coordinator, he's going to have opportunities. Franklin was able to keep him. And now there's, year 2 in his defense. He's got Curtis Jacobs coming back, who's going to be one of the best defensive players in college football. I think they got a chance. They play West Virginia week 1. They're at Ohio State, play Michigan at home. Obviously, the Big Ten East is not an easy division to play in, especially if you're trying to make the playoff. But at the end of the day, James Franklin has to win one of these games at some point. You have to beat Ohio State or Michigan. You gotta you go back to 2016. That was a long time ago now. 2016, they beat Ohio State. Almost made the playoff, won the Big Ten. That was a while ago. It's time that Penn State, makes a run here and contends for a national championship. They've been right on the edge every single year, and you can make the excuse that the division's really tough, but at some point you got to crack into the other side.
So Adam, just kind of reading about your resume and your experience and everything, we all kind of share that former player bond, but one thing we always joke about is the insanity of being a college football head coach, especially nowadays. Yeah. You've been behind the curtain. You lived that life. You were on the other side, dude. What was it like on the other side of the equation?
Man, it is. I did it for 2 years and got out, so that should tell you tell you how good it was. Exactly. In college football, man, I was amazed at how little it was about football and how much it was about recruiting and everything else. It's literally 85% talent acquisition and 15% talent development. And I know that sounds crazy, but it literally is. everything you do as a coach is about recruiting, and you get promoted when you recruit well, and you get paid more when you recruit well. No one cares how good your drills are for your tight ends. No one cares, because anyone can go do drills. They're like, who can recruit? Who can get the best players? So, I mean, there's a reason there's a lot of coaches trying to go to the NFL, because you spend all day texting 16-year-olds, calling 16-year-olds.
No.
I mean, T-Bob, I'm telling you, I was playing video games with I was playing Call of Duty with 16, 17-year-olds, and your entire job and livelihood depends on them picking your school for where they're going. It's just like, it's really and now with the transfer portal and NIL, I can only imagine it's even crazier. But yeah, the college football world, there's a reason that a lot of those coaches are making the transition to the NFL.
All right, give us your biggest horror story, because my boy Christian Robinson, coach now, he's at Baylor. He's at his 5th school, and he's a hell of a linebacker coach.
Yeah, very good.
We're on his bachelor party, and he gets a call from a 17-year-old, and he has to pick it up. We're in the middle of a bachelor party, so it's always going, because if you don't pick up, he's going to call the next coach, and that coach
100%.
is probably going to pick up.
Yeah,
it sucks. Your top horror story or something like that, I was just like, damn, man, I can't believe I have to essentially kiss this dude's ass.
Oh man, there were so many. I mean, it was daily. I mean, it was all the time. You know, the kids expect the attention of, being almost like being their best friend. And especially as a young coach, especially, I was 25 as a tight ends coach, right? So it was a little bit of a different situation than a 40-year-old who's recruiting a kid, where my advantage in recruiting wasn't that I was the smartest coach in the world. It was that I could relate to you like I'm your big brother. So there are so many, man. I mean, when I learned that we actually take our cell phones to practice, because you got to be ready in case something goes on, or a kid is going to commit, that you got to be ready to not disrupt practice, but may have to answer a text on the practice field. I mean, it was that intense. My biggest horror story, it wasn't anything I had to do, but there was a kid that we were recruiting. I had just got promoted at Arizona State. We were recruiting a kid named Kean Burnett, who was a tight end, 4-star recruit. And it was like my first big recruit, and as a young guy, you got to land your big recruit. He was from California. We needed him to come to ASU, and it was a done deal. I mean, I was telling everybody we had this kid committing to us. I was high-fiving the offensive staff. I was telling Herm Edwards was the head coach. Coach Herm, we got Kean Burnett's coming. The day he's announcing his commitment, I wake up in the morning. He doesn't text me back right away in the morning, which is concerning on the day he's committing, right? And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, he's probably just slept in a little bit. An hour goes by, he responds, "What's up, coach? Excited to announce my commitment later." I'll never forget, man. I called him before he was about to commit, doesn't answer. I'm like, this is not going to be good if he doesn't commit to Arizona State. And sure enough, he commits to USC. and it was the most demoralizing thing I've been through. I mean, I got made fun of by the coaches for, because I was the young guy too, the new coach that loses.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was tough, man. It was crazy how much that stuff impacts you when your entire career and livelihood relies on, kids picking your school. So Kean Burnett, you broke my heart, man. He's at Arizona now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ironic. That sounds fucking awful, Adam. Yeah. That sounds like pretty much everything. That sounds like everything that I thought it was going to be in a lot of ways. Hey, you've probably been asked this before. Do you have anything? Did Herm Edwards, was it just a blank moment? Did he actually know the mascot was the Devils in that opening press conference? Do you have any insight there? Did he ever confide in the coaching staff?
He did not. And that happened before I got there. So I wasn't privy to that information, but I'll be honest, being with Herm, for 2 years you just get quotes all the time. You'd walk into your office and Herm would print out a piece of paper with one of his quotes on it. It'd just be on your desk when you walked in. Herm's got a million one-liners and quotes. I learned a lot from that dude.
Hell yeah. He's a legend of the game, man. Killing
really
on TV
is.
Once again now. All right, Adam Breneman, thank you so much, man. Looking forward to talking with you more for sure. You can check out the podcast Next Up with Adam. Of course, covers college football for ESPN as well. Thank you, Adam. This is awesome, man.